Politicians of every denomination have accused over and over and falsely that the elections were rigged in 2016 and 2018. And they took things to the next level in 2020. A 2014 study by Washingtonpost found 31 instances of voter impersonation happened between 2000 and 2014. That's 31 instances out of more than 1 billion ballots cast during that 15-year period. After repeatedly accusing the election was rigged and falsely claiming that he won the popular vote in 2016, in an effort to place some legitimacy into his claims, President Trump created a Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity, a commission that was tasked with investigating voter fraud in the 2016 election. The commission was shut down because it couldn't find anything, and Mr. Trump dissolved the commission on January 3, 2018.
This week, President Trump dissolved the Presidential Advisory Commission on Election Integrity, a body that was supposed to root out and prevent suspected voter fraud. The commission's creation stemmed from President Trump's unverified claim that millions of people who voted illegally cost him the popular vote in 2016. In its short tenure, the commission had no effect on campaign laws and was dogged by controversy. That it no longer exists may not mean the end of the voter fraud issue, however.
But despite repeatedly failing to prove anything went wrong in 2016, politicians have escalated things to the next level in 2020, and this time they have moved a notch higher. From voter impersonation, they have now started pointing fingers at voting machines as a cause for fraud. For some, the harder it becomes to prove anything, the better it is to accuse. Here are some myths about voting machines that we heard this year. The roots of this theory can be found in a series of tweets Mr. Trump unfurled in the second week of November, when he repeatedly accused Dominion Systems, a voting machine manufacturer, as owned by the left. Then people took things to the next level and their target became Dominion and Smartmatic. Right-wing media started painting a picture that these companies are in some way connected to Hugo Chavez. But none of these accusations were true. Dominion was founded in Canada, but it is a US-based company now. Dominion Voting released a statement saying it is a non-partisan US company and has no company ownership relationship with any member of the Pelosi family or the Clinton Global Initiative. The company has donated to Republicans as well as Democrats in the past. Smartmatic, on the other hand, was founded by Antonio Mujica and Roger Pinate, who work as the CEO and the president of the company respectively. Both of them were born in Venezuela. The company was founded right here in the United States in Florida. And the funniest part of all this is Smartmatic technology was only used in Los Angeles County, California in the 2020 election. And the system that Smartmatic provided does not even count, tabulate, or store votes according to the company. But despite all of that, the name of the company was mentioned hundreds of times in just a few days across the entire right-wing ecosystem after the election was over. And now, this is one of the often repeated accusations in the right wing, to claim that the election was rigged because you cannot verify anything. This is simply not true, because the 4 states that were at the center of this theory all use voting machines with a paper trail. Wherever paper trails exist, the officials can check the machine count, they can perform an audit, they can do a paperless recount, they can do a paper-only recount, compare them, and do all of the above publicly while recording the whole process, just like how Georgia did its recount in this year's election. The hand audits done in Georgia, Milwaukee, and Michigan found there was no evidence of hacking, and all of them confirmed and reconfirmed that Biden won. At the stroke of midnight on election day, President Donald J. Trump appeared well on his way to winning a second term, wrote Peter Navarro. Shortly after midnight, however, as a flood of mail-in and absentee ballots began entering the count, the Trump red tide of victory began turning Joe Biden blue. This is from the great senator of Kentucky, Rand Paul. The reason so many people were excited to push this theory was because it was so easy to say it, and the issue was compounded by the fact that in-person election day votes were counted in hours after polls closed on the election day, while it took days to count the mail-in ballots. But that was not a sign that something went wrong. It was just a sign that different process of counting executed in different time frames, finishing up at a different timeline. Here is Mike Madrid explaining to us why it takes time to count mail-in ballots compared to in-person votes.
On November 3rd, we are not going to know who the President of the United States is. Most ballots in most states, not all, but most states set aside all the ballots that are mailed in, and they're set and processed and secured in a place in the county government center to be counted the moment that the polls close at 8 p.m. on November the 3rd. Not all states, there are some exceptions, but most states, okay? It's important because if you look even at what people are saying now with what the messaging that Trump is putting out, is Republicans are increasingly going to be moving towards the election day, okay? That means Democrats, and this has been for 20 years, there's quantifiable data showing this, are going to be voting increasingly by mail, okay? What does that mean? It means that the votes that are counted on election day are going to lean Republican. And these are the votes that more often are disproportionately reflected in the day of count. It means on November 3rd, we are not going to know who the President of the United States is. We would not know that under any circumstance because there are so many ballots that have come in by mail. What's going to happen is on November 4th, the county government centers are going to begin the process of counting mail-in ballots, especially those that come in the last few days before the election. And every day that there is a count, demographically, the gap between the Republicans and the Democrats will shrink in favor of the Democrats. This is why in November of 2018, all the prognosticators and all the media folks said it's just a blue trickle. The Democrats didn't do nearly as well we thought that they were going to do in November of 2018. But over days and weeks, as the count kept coming in, it broke sharply for the Democrats. This is going to happen by a factor of 5 or 6 because so many more states are doing this. The reason why that's important is because every day we're going to get a new count that is going to show the votes shortening and tightening and benefiting the Democrats. And every day you're going to see messaging coming from the Trump campaign saying they're stealing the election. This is voter fraud. It's quantifiably false. It's ridiculous, but it is absolutely what they are going to be saying beginning on November 4th until we're able to certify the election, probably 2-3 weeks after we're done on November the 3rd.
Poll after poll indicated that Republicans highly favored in-person election day voting while Democrats favored mail-in ballots. According to estimates, 65 million mail-in ballots were cast in this election, and it obviously took a lot of time for states that were handicapped from processing mail-in ballots before the election day by Republican legislatures. See the table? The disparity between when mail-in ballots were counted in Florida when compared to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. There is a reason how and why this happened. In Wisconsin, GOP lawmakers went all the way to the Supreme Court to stop the state from processing mail-in ballots before the election day. And they did whatever they can to stop Michigan and Pennsylvania from processing the ballots early. So the GOP forces the time-consuming mail-in ballot counting process to be done after election day. And when the states consumed more time to process them, the GOP accused them of taking time. How convenient. All these states must put their foot down and make sure that all mail-in ballots are processed before the election day for all the elections in the future. And if GOP legislatures refuse to agree, they must be taken to task in the public court until they agree to it. You cannot have a fully GOP-controlled Florida to process mail-in ballots 21 days before the final voting day and use Republican legislatures in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan to stop the processing of mail-in ballots before the election day. The entire world knows why this happened, how it happened, and what came out of it. It must be stopped now. Thanks for watching. If you like it, please subscribe.